you hear the spring yet? Beautiful. Sometimes words just don't really seem bothering with, do they? I think that place speaks for itself. Been there before, haven't we? That was Barton Springs at Barton le Clay. And as far as I can tell, I might be wrong, but as far as I can tell looking at the maps, Barton Springs is one of the sources of the River Hit. It's another of those little tributaries that flows down, and this one joins the Flip before it then goes on to join the Ouse, Great Ouse. So we're going to follow this down to pretty much where it joins the River Flit. Along the way we're going to stop off at I think it's an 11th or 12th century church, 12th I think, at Gravenhurst, and it's made out of iron ore, which is highly unusual. So I'll pop in and have a look at that, and then we'll finish up just across the other side of the little Hit Valley at a place called Mepishore. Now there's another very old church there at Mepishore. And that church is actually built within the boundary defences of the Motte and Bailey Castle. Right then, first stop Gravenhurst Church. It's a St Mary's. Yeah, it's definitely a St Mary's. I'm going to hop in the car, whiz down the road. It's not far, it's only a couple of miles. Now this is neither an iron ore church, nor is it in Gravenhurst. I just wanted to quickly, before we leave Barton le Clay, this is St Nicholas's, and I just wanted to quickly show you some of these yew trees that I spotted in the graveyard as we went past. They've got some real beauties. I think this is also a... No, I tell a lie, I don't know how old this church is. Look at these yew trees. Got some great trunks on them. There's quite a number of them as well. Lovely one there, look. I don't know if you can just about make out over there in the mist. It's quite hazy today. It's a beautiful day, but it's hazy. That's the Barton Hills where we just came from. And looking just down there into the gentle little valley, just running along down the bottom there is the River Hit. And up here got our lovely ironstone church. It is 12th century. It's 12th century. And I'm wondering if this this iron ore that it's made of, I wonder if it's magnetic. I should have brought a proper magnet with me, but I have got a little crappy magnet on a telescopic keyring pen that I've got on my keys. We'll give it a little go. But one other thing about this church is I might actually go inside. Don't usually do that, but I saw some pictures online And apparently the interior is unchanged for the last 600 years. I'm quite keen to see that. Let's have a walk around the outside and have a look at the church. Now Gravenhurst, the village of Gravenhurst, that name means a coppiced hillside. Well, we are on a hillside, quite clearly. We're quite near the top of a hill, looking down there towards the River Hit, down into the valley. I thought Gravenhurst was going to mean something along the lines of some sort of pit. Some sort of pit or quarry or big hole. Because in another derivation, graven does mean that. It means a pit. It's where grave came from. If you look at Chalgrave, for example, that means chalk pit. But the grave here comes from the Old English grapha. And Gravenhurst means a coppiced hillside. Right, let's have a look. It's some great big lumps, isn't it? I was half expecting it to be made up a lot, you know, like when you see a flint church. I was expecting it to be made up of lots and lots of little bits and pieces all glued together. They're actually quite large chunks, aren't they? Look at them ones going up the side of the tower. I'm guessing the tower's going to be a later addition. They usually are. They didn't have towers like that in the 1100s. This church was built for a local lord, whose name I forget. Robert de something, I think he was. It's not used for services anymore. A bit like Edlesborough Church, where my nan and granddad are buried. How do I get around here? It's not actually used anymore. Don't know if I can get around there. But you know, it's maintained and looked after, and you can still be buried here, I guess, if you can afford it, possibly. How do I get round the back? That's just a farmer's field. Can't get round that way. Let's try from the other end again. It's quite a striking building, isn't it? Made of that red iron ore. Let's see if we can get round this side. Can I just sneak down there? Oh, can you? Right. What we got going on down here then? Really unique looking building, isn't it? Very different church. There's an old bricked up door there. I think that door around the other side, which looked very old and rotten, I think that door on the other side was probably the way in. We'll go in, shall we? We'll have a look. We are pretty, yeah, we're at the top of the hill here. Right. Where's that door gone? Oh. Blocked off by a fallen tree. Oh. Squeeze through here. That seems to be the way in. What do you think? Will I burst into flames? Let's give it a go. Rotten old door, isn't it? Ooh. I can quite believe that hasn't been altered in 600 years. Quite an organ for such a small church. Fnar, fnar. Oh, and that must be the way up to the bell tower. I presume it must have bells in it. Wonder how old the organ is. That's interesting to see. Very nice. Good Lord. I don't want to, I want to touch it, but I feel that I shouldn't. How damn old is that? Is it a Bible? Is it a local records book? I'm not gonna mess about with it. It's very old and fragile. I would love to know exactly what it is, but I'm not gonna. It's got cobwebs on it, look. Fascinating. Can we make out? There's a little bit of writing. Wow, that's some very old handwriting. I can't read it. I'm going to have to research this at a later date and see what this book is, because that has fascinated me. Here's something very strange I've found. In a dusty box, in a dark little corner of the church, there is, I don't know what. It looks almost like centuries old half-rotted thatch. I don't know. Again, something I'm going to have to try and find out about. Very strange thing to have. Tucked away in the corner. Weird. Okay, enough of that. I'm feeling the need to scrub myself down in bleach. Ugh. Beautiful building. Absolutely beautiful. I've just had to stop and get my bearings a little bit. Right now we're facing dead north, and you can see over there at Upper Gravenhurst, there's the current church that's used for the parish, presumably a much newer one. Now I made a mistake. I said that back there was where the River Hit runs. It doesn't. It runs there. I got confused because there is a valley over there, but it's not the Hit Valley. The Hit Valley's over there. Now if it wasn't for this old rectory here, we might actually just about be able to see the Motte and Bailey that we're about to go to at Mepishore. It's not far, it's just over in that direction. So we're going to, I think we're going to cross the river at some point as we make our way over there. Right, so we'll say goodbye. We'll say goodbye to Gravenhurst Church. Oh. That's the first church I've been in for ages. It wasn't for a funeral. Lovely place though, and beautiful on the inside. It's amazing to think that that hasn't changed in, what was it, 600 years? Pretty incredible. Okay, next stop. Just a couple of miles across the Hit Valley to Mepishore Church and the Motte and Bailey Castle. Anybody on the lookout for blackthorn, this is it. This is how you spot it at this time of year. This is the easiest time of year to spot it, because it's just about, thank you, it's just about the only thing that's out in all these white flowers. And you'll notice that the white flowers come out before any of its leaves. So it's just bare wood and white flowers. And obviously you've got the thorns all over it, which are another giveaway. There you go. And right next to it there, the stuff that's in leaf, that's oh Christ, what's its name? Jesus, I was eating it earlier. I've gone blank. Hawthorn. That one's hawthorn. And you can tell the difference because at this time of year, hawthorn's covered in its leaves, blackthorn, and they're very often growing together in a hedgerow like this. Blackthorn just has its flowers. Hope that might be useful. Right, there's the old church at Gravenhurst where we just came from. We've come down the side of the valley, down to the river Hit. Because it occurred to me that we've not actually seen very much of the river, have we? Looking at these little points along the way. We've got this little section here, and you can see it's actually quite comparable to the Flit in terms of its size and flow. Pretty similar to the River Flit, which is just a couple of miles in that direction, and which in that direction this river eventually joins up with. But it's much shorter than the Flit. I'd say in total, this River Hit from Barton Springs down to where it joins the Flit at a place called the Ivell Navigation, near the Ivell Navigation. Probably less than 10 miles, or about 10 miles. Not a lot. Just over there you've got the obligatory pumping station. Sat at the side of the river. I think this is probably private land on this side. Let's make our way over to the Motte and Bailey Castle, which is about 2 or 3 miles. I would walk it, you can follow the river, but I'm not gonna. It's about 2 or 3 miles in that direction. Right, we're at Mepishore, and as far as I can tell, the river's running kind of down there at the end of this field somewhere. Now then, I'm just in the fields out the back of the castle and the church. Castle's off through there. In fact, looking on Google Maps yesterday, it does actually appear that this bit of land here around, that's the main castle and the church in there, but this bit of land all around it, if you look on Google Maps, it does show. You can see it's enclosed anyway, where these hedgerows are. Some sort of outer boundary to the site. But the main business is all going on in here. I've never been in there before. As far as I can tell, it's pretty standard for a Norman Motte and Bailey castle. It's even got the obligatory fish ponds. They all seem to have fish ponds, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If you've got fish ponds, and if you've got a well inside your defences, you're pretty much sorted, aren't you? Ah, here we go, look. Here we go. There's a nice big mound of some description. It's all got a fence round it, that's surprised me a bit. I hope it's actually accessible. It should be, it's got a church in it. Oh. Not only a fence, barbed wire one. Okay, what's that then? That looks like a little bailey, doesn't it? There's something else going on behind there. I'm a little bit worried about this, you know, look. It's so nicely mown and kept. And there's a yucca. I'm a bit worried that this is somebody's back garden. Look at that nice big mansion over there. Oh, here we go again. Let's have a look. Definitely a Motte and Bailey right in front of me there. The other side of a barbed wire fence. Excellent place for a castle. You can see for miles and miles across there, look. This isn't looking good. The whole damn thing is so enclosed, and if it wasn't for the fact that it was early March, I wouldn't even be able to see what I can see through there. Once these bushes are all treed up, all leafed up, you'd have no idea there was a castle back there. And look, to add to my worries that this is a private garden, bloody pampas grass. Looks like the swingers have got control of the castle. Definitely a private garden. They've got stone deer. I don't think we're going to get to see the Motte and Bailey Castle. We'll go into the church anyway. Oh, I can see the fish pond. Oh man, what a wind up is that, eh? Look. We'll have a look at the church. I know you can get in there. We'll have a look at the church. And you never know, we might be able to see a bit more of the castle from the church. Now, do I just keep following this around, or do I go back the way I came? I can see a little footpath marker there. If it lets me turn right, I'm going to take it. No, forget that then. Okay, I'll go back the way I came. We'll go back into the church and see if maybe we can get a decent shot of the earthworks from the churchyard. I don't know. And I said it was early March, didn't I? It's not, it's nearly April. Well, somewhere through there, back in 1138, there was quite a lengthy and well-known siege. It was King Stephen, the grandson of William the Conqueror. Now, I couldn't figure out quite whether this siege was King Stephen besieging the castle of some lesser lord, or if, bearing in mind that it was 1130 odd, it might have been somebody else who was besieging King Stephen in his castle. That William the Conqueror. Virtually all of the castles around here, all of these old Norman Motte and Baileys, they all involve his offspring and his grandchildren and his nephews as well. I think the Black Prince was one of his nephews, was he? But it makes you wonder how flipping good he must have been. And there are parallels with today's crazy world of politics, you know. You look at the situation in Ukraine at the moment. That's a crazy situation. You've got a guy who was so damn good at playing a bloke in a sitcom who became president by accident. He was so good at that, they actually made him president by accident. Now this sort of craziness has been going on for a long time, because, let's have a look through here, look. William the Conqueror. How good at conkers have you got to be that they make you King of England? I'd like to know his secret, because when I was a kid I used to soak them in vinegar, I used to varnish them, I used to bake them. None of it really worked. Now whatever it was that William the Conqueror was doing, he was doing something right. So unfortunately, although what I'm looking at here was, by the look of it on Google Maps, part of the castle, the actual interesting bit in there with the Motte and Baileys and the fish ponds is not accessible. Story of my life, innit, eh? But there are some funny looking lumps and bumps down here that I passed as I came in. No idea what they could be, but we'll have a quick look as we pass them. There's the church just peeking its head through the trees, look. Now, as I always do, I looked up the name of Mepishore to see what it might mean, and there are two different versions. One of them is that it means, they kind of mean the same thing in one sense. One of them is that Mepishore means a man called something along the lines of Maypert. A man called Maypert's little corner of land. The other version is that Mepishore means nook in the hills with maple trees. So there is a little common factor in the two there, in that it's a little nook in the hills. But one version says that it belongs to a bloke called Maypert, and one version says it was full of maple trees. I don't know if you can just about make out along that hedgerow there next to the road. There's a bit of a bank along there, although that could be down to agriculture. But considering its proximity to these little lumps and bumps, I think it might be part of the old castle construction. Yeah, there's something a little bit linear, a little bit ditch and banky. Just here, look. Oh, that's a muddy bit. We're on a bit of a bank here. And there's the view of the castle from the churchyard. A hedge. And there's the church at Mepishore. It looks like it's also made out of ironstone, iron ore. Do you know what? I'm not going to stand here looking at a church. You people have got right on my wick. I'm not going to complain too much. It was a lovely walk, beautiful weather. We started at Barton Springs. I mean, you know, that's always going to be a good walk, isn't it? But I shouldn't moan too much. I'm kind of getting used to this now. What annoys me a bit is if I was a Native American, or if I was an Amazonian tribesman, or if I was an Inuit, my heritage and my landscape would be pretty well protected. People wouldn't be allowed to do that sort of thing to it, fence it all off and turn it into a landscape flipping. That wouldn't be allowed. For some reason it's okay to destroy my cultural heritage and stop me from going and having a look at it. Anyway, like I said, I'm getting used to it now. I'm not going to let it bug me too much. It's a lovely day. I'm going to go home and re-watch that footage from Barton Springs, and that'll put a smile back on my face. I'll see you next Saturday. Don't know where yet, but I'll see you somewhere next Saturday. Maybe even see you tomorrow at the allotment. You never know. I did enjoy that. I'm not moaning too much. It's just these rich people get right on my...